Hello everyone, my name is Ben and welcome back to PASSTHEauxCORD, a channel where you might have thought that I was once again going to do one Muse video and then disappear for a year, but I'm here to tell you otherwise. Because as promised, we're back here once again, and better late than never. We are doing a reaction to the new album by Arctic Monkeys called The Car. So I've been really behind on music all year, so I definitely haven't heard this yet. I am not to this point in the year, but if you're wondering why it took me this long to get to this point, it's because I've been doing that, playing a little bit of catch up. Regardless, I am still very excited to listen to this one. This was one of my most anticipated albums for a little while. I think it'll be really interesting to see where they head after Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino, because that was such an out of left field album. You know, I feel like that's going to be difficult to follow. I have heard about 30 seconds of this album, and honestly that was mostly just while I was sound testing for this video, which hopefully worked right, and it was kind of giving me those similar vibes to Tranquility Base, but we'll see where this goes. Track number 1, there'd better be a Mirrorball. Lead single as well, I believe. Right away it just sounds so elegant. Hello. What is going on here? There we go. Okay.
No, that ain't like you. Seems to better suit the mood. So if you wanna walk me to the car,
You said the thing.
that there's a Mirrorball.
So I'm kind of trying to follow along with the narrative, I believe, that we're getting here. And my computer's at a terrible angle, so if I look like I'm sitting weird, that is why. So what it seems that walking him to the car is implying is just that he wants to stay with this person that he is romantically interested in, but they're not really having it. That's what I'm gathering from this so far. Verbiage of everything is very fanciful again. I've talked about that being both a good and bad thing in the past before. I think it's really working for this kind of elegant sound.
Darling, if I were you, how's that insatiable appetite? Nice. So do you wanna walk me to the
Nice.
car? For me.
This sounds beautiful.
Oh, there'd better be a Mirrorball for.
Okay. Gorgeous track. Upon revisit of a lot of what we saw on Tranquility Base, I actually feel like that's an improvement on a very similar sound. You know, somewhere around that 3 album mark with this band, they kind of did the full 180 and just kind of started going for this very relaxed but like fancy type of sound, where it all does this like very elegant, beautiful instrumental work like this. But this is the best I've heard them pull that sound off so far. Tranquility Base was, of course, a little bit of a concept album, and it was supposed to sound like you're on this moon hotel, and that's a lot of what was going on with the choices that they made on it. However, a lot of times it did come across a little bland. This did not have a dull moment, so I'm loving it for that. The far too vocabulary heavy lyrics do make things a little bit difficult sometimes. It matches the mood the song is going for, but it doesn't convey the writing in a relatable way. I don't know how else to put it other than that. It's a huge problem that I had with Suck It and See. I felt like that was the most awkward part of this transition easily, and still revisiting that album to this day, I can't find much enjoyment in it whatsoever. Like, you know, there's still that handful of songs, but I mean, so I'm kind of hoping we get things that are a little bit more straightforward on this album, but it's okay. I like a lot of the individual quotes on that song as well. Some of it, when it's phrased so fancifully, if you will, does sound really cool if you just look at it in a vacuum. I'm just not sure exactly what I'm supposed to be gathering from that song other than that very vague summary that I gathered early on. Second song is I Ain't Quite Where I Think I Am. That's kind of a mouthful, but let's go. Okay. Much more punching. Unexpected. This has got twists and turns all over it. This is wild.
By the retina scan, I ain't quite where I think I am. You know the face, but you can't see past.
This is going back to some like sci-fi. Okay, so first and foremost, I have no idea what this song is talking about, but I'm noticing a lot of like sci-fi elements that are reminding me a lot again of Tranquility Base. We've got like, what was the retina scan? Freaky keypad by the retina scan. First of all, that sounds like a random word generator, but that retina scan has given me some like futuristic impressions, as well as Always Worth Half a Blast is like really drawing that kind of imagery. The sound of this is just everywhere too. Man, I do not know what to make of that.
I ain't quite where I think I am. The disco strobes and my stumbling blocks. Now, formation displays,
Keeping me on my toes.
and I can see both obvious signs.
This is what I'm talking about. This is what I mean with lyrics that sound so good in a vacuum but don't make a lot of sense in context. The spare set of tingles will race up your spine. It's like, why is this man not using this to be an author type of line, right? Because in the song, I don't feel like we have a cohesive enough story for me to figure out where I'm supposed to be putting that or what I'm supposed to be doing with that, but it's a really cool line nonetheless.
Is coming into land. Right where I think I am. Formation displays of affection fly over. Eyes roll back and
That is so weird, but it's just incredible. That was such a strange song, but wow, did I love it. I know they were trying some really weird things on that previous album. Songs like Bat Phone are coming to mind. I know that was one for sure. They did some stuff, right, that was totally out of the ordinary. That whole album, like I said before, was out of left field. This is so far out of left field, like I don't know what to do with this. It had that like almost kind of funny, I don't know how else to put it, bass line to it that was just so weird. It just had this like odd little bouncy quality. I don't even know if bassline's not the right word to use here, but you know what I'm saying. And then you just had these like beautiful harmonies next to it. The backing vocals in this song have to be my favorite backing vocals I have heard on something like in recent memory whatsoever. I that non-lyrical, that little like that thing, where is that from? It's not from Earth. I don't know what that does to me, but it's kind of crazy. Other than that, the eyes roll back part of it too, something, it's just like I'm almost getting chills. I don't know how else to put it. It's something, there's something strange going on here, but I'm quite a fan. Again, there's a lot of imagery going on in these lyrics, but I'm not sure what I'm supposed to draw from them, so I don't really feel like I'm in a good place to comment. Nonetheless, Sculptures of Anything Goes. Wow, that's a phrase right there. It's the next song. And where is this coming from? It's so ominous.
On Italian TV, sometime in the future, whilst going towards sculptures of anything gold, puncturing your bubble of relatability. Loud blank canvases.
The first chills of the album have happened. This vocal is incredible. What's it gonna do next? What's it gonna do next? Who knows? Nobody knows. I'm in outer space, man. I'm not here right now. That doesn't make any sense, but I like it. I don't know what he's saying, but he's saying something good.
And roll your eyes and help me to get untied.
Perfect quote on its own. That's the craziest song I've heard all year. Whoa, what was that? That was weird. That was crazy. I loved that. I loved every part of that. Holy shit, that was cool. I don't know what else to say about it. I feel like maybe why this is so out of the ordinary and such a crazy experience to listen to for me is just that, like, sure, there's a ton of people doing crazy things with their sound like this, but I don't think most of them have the notoriety or the backing or the production value, the budget that Arctic Monkeys would at this point. So them getting super fucking adventurous like this is just like, it's so perfect. Like, I don't feel like there's any words that can do this justice. I feel like my reaction should kind of sum up my feelings. Dark, ominous, but also like loud instrumental, and he's just saying some shit over it. Like, I don't know what he's saying, but the words, they're crazy. I'm starting to love it. Like, I don't care what this is about anymore. I just want to hear you say shit like fucking, what was that chandelier line? Something absolutely nuts. I have no idea, but you know what I'm talking about. I pointed it out. It's so crazy that this is like happening and I'm recording this reaction. I feel like this is the most viscerally I have reacted to an album on this channel before. Jet Skis on the Moat. By the way, the lyrics, the desktop, my whole monitor, everything is over here. So if you catch me like gazing in this general direction, I'm probably looking at the lyrics or I'm changing the song. Let's go. Jet Skis on the Moat. I don't even need to say anything.
Jet skis on the moat.
The things they're doing with guitars on this album, just
Showstoppers anonymous, come over here. Is there something? Lights out in the Wonder Park. You wanna cry?
I think I do.
While the paint job dries. Supposed to know. As though it's the last time.
I have to say that I'm the least impressed with that song out of the ones that we've heard on here so far, just because it kind of stayed stagnant in its like somewhat mellow, pretty like relaxed overall feel to it. But I mean, that's not to say it was bad whatsoever. I was just kind of expecting its twists and turns to be a little bit more weird, if that makes any sense, just based on the ones that we've heard before it. I know that this is gonna hit different when I'm in the right environment, but right now it's just not clicking sound wise with me all that much. The lyrics again are honestly really great, and this one seems to have some of the most clear, like plainly spoken lyrics so far on here. I mean, obviously there's a ton of like metaphors going on here. The jet skis on the moat is the title, and that's obviously a metaphor. I'm gathering that the narrator's perspective here is in speaking to someone who he wants to see a more potent emotion from. You know, this person is just kind of gazing off, not really all that invested in whatever they're talking about, maybe. And that's what he's trying to like get to, is like, you know, show some emotion here. I really don't know what to make of this song's like primary metaphor of those jet skis aforementioned here, but I mean, it's a crazy thing to think about. Body Paint is the next one. We've got a kind of double whammy here, because I know this is the second single that came out, and then we've got title track right after it, so let's go.
For a master of deception and subterfuge, you've made yourself quite the best. Do your time traveling through the tanning booth. To ball, I know what you're thinking.
Beautiful, but like,
My teeth are beating,
wow, it's weird.
and my knees are
I want to point something out, is that this album almost seems to be going for this, I'm not sure, but it has like a liminal space quality to it, if that makes any sense. I feel like I get this from a lot of vaporwave, and it's something really interesting to me. I just don't know quite how it works or quite how to describe it, but especially that little like plucky upbeat little melody in between here, paired with this already somewhat liminal feeling album cover of just this car in an empty parking lot in what looks like an empty city. Like, I mean, it's just kind of wild, just how it is. Like, they're going for something, executing it well, and it's so hard to describe that thing that they're executing well.
come poke your head behind it. To ball, I know what you're thinking. The tears are coming
Wow.
out.
It's just migrated into a totally different space now.
Steal a trace of body paint on your legs.
I knew that was gonna be good.
Steal a trace
This
of
is
body
indescribable.
paint on your trace of body paint on your legs and on your arms and on your face.
The layers, just so much going on right now is really crazy. Okay, I feel like I don't even need to say at this point. So many twists and turns, so much going on in that song. I mean, there's just like a lot to unpack. I feel like that pretty well summed up a lot of the instrumental qualities they were going for in the tracks before this. Just throughout the whole album, it's been kind of messing with these different palettes. And I mean, it just wasn't any less unexpected, and just having this entirely unique presence to it. I don't know how else to phrase this. Again, this one seems to have a very metaphorical thing going on with that body paint that keeps being referenced. Early on, the narrator talks of being able to read someone better than that person thinks that they can. Talks about them being predictable. And it seems like he's being given some bad news at some point here. I mean, says, I feel the tears are coming on, it won't be long. I thought this line, I'm keeping on my costume and calling it a writing tool, was really interesting as well. I'm just not quite sure what that body paint is trying to represent. I mean, I feel like I could sit here and try to analyze the song forever, but I mean, we can just kind of move along here. I feel like there's a lot of digging into this you could do. Other than that, I mean, again, that liminal quality that this one had, it really feels the way the cover looks. I don't know how else to put it to you. Also, it zooms in on the version of Apple Music that I'm using up here, and it's so trippy because, like, every time I look at it, it's moving, and I'm always just thinking that it's not supposed to be doing that. Next song up is the title track. There's a long pause at the end of that song, reminding me of Room on Fire. Sad sound to this one, if that makes sense. I find this acoustic direction really interesting. I have no idea what to make of that. And we're sweeping for bugs. Some dusty apartment. Love the imagery here. Like, I'm not supposed to know what that means, right? You know, that's another thing that's kind of been something I've been thinking about throughout most of this is like, am I supposed to know what he means? Because you can arrive at 11 and have lunch with the English. What? What does that mean to me? Right? Is this intentionally up to interpretation? There's a lot of things you could say here. You say climb up there, jump off there, back. Strangely relatable. Wow. It's like a very sad guitar solo. Incredible. Lots of exposition in this one, and I'm not really sure what to make of any of it, unfortunately. I think there was some really interesting imagery popping in here. Just about everything that Alex Turner was given us lyrically on this song was very easy to envision. You know, you can see all of this happening. You're on vacation, you're pretending to be asleep in the car, you're popping small champagne things, you're going out to the car to grab something. That being the primary metaphor that this whole album is revolving around is very odd to me, and that's just because, like, going out to the car to grab something seems insignificant to me personally. I don't know what's meant here, but I mean, I'm hoping this clarifies for me as we go on. But the sound of that one wasn't one of the more complicated on the album, I guess I would say, but it was definitely a beautiful one. Very elegant, very nice on the ears. Again, it felt kind of sorrowful, which is strange because it seemed like the lyrical presentation almost implied nostalgia to a degree. We continue forward. Next song is Big Idea. So far matching kind of the sound palette of the last one.
Spotlit, getting lowered in wonderful things. The ballad of what could have been. Had big ideas, the band was so excited.
Getting a little meta here.
Waving their arms and stomping their feet. Some just hysterical seem excited. The kind you'd rather not share over before. For the life of me, remember
So I feel like that might be the most plainly written, and I know I said that, I think it was jet skis that I said that about before. Regardless, I think that might be the most straightforward one, I suppose, on the album, and it seems to be him reflecting on a lot of his experiences touring and just with the band in general. And I like the idea that he had big ideas that he wasn't able to fulfill. They aren't this, so like what were those big ideas? That's fun to think about. Is this touring things that he's talking about? Is this different directions for their music? I mean, certainly big things are happening here, big ideas, I suppose, as it was phrased. Interesting lyrical content. As far as the way it sounded, it matched a lot of what we saw on the title track, where it's kind of this very nostalgia fueled, somewhat depressed sounding type of deal. This one had a lot more layers. It wasn't kind of using those more acoustic elements. It was bringing in a lot more of the orchestra elements to the table. And I mean, I kind of like to see that. It's nice to see a little bit of cohesion, because if I'm being completely honest with you, at some point it was like, this is going a little bit off the rails and it's going kind of everywhere. I was almost feeling that like right away when, you know, the first two songs did so many different things. So I mean, it's nice to see a little bit of cohesion. I'm a little mixed on how I feel. I mean, still cool song, and like by regular standards, I don't think I would ever say there's anything wrong with that song. It was great. All right, we're back here. So I very briefly had to go pause the recording for just a bit so that I could go export some of that footage, because it was too full for what I'm currently recording on. And while I was doing this, I almost messed everything up. This video almost did not happen. This is totally just a side tangent here, not really related to the album, I know. But I want to shout out this guy right here, because this tutorial just saved the day here. Regardless, now that our files are not corrupted, hopefully this will not happen again, and we're going to proceed with the album. I do believe Hello You is where we left off. That sounds smooth as hell.
It's elaborate for a waking thought. Vortex to vortex. If you're calling up and pull around the car. Stop special.
Said the thing. Ooh. Like that a lot. Oh, that's so sick.
Reaches its end and leaves us in a thoughtful little daze. Shall burn no more rubber down that boulevard.
That is so wordy. This is very nice on the ears. Good shit. Reference to the first track, possibly? Okay, that was very interesting. There were certain parts of that track that sounded very magical, just very smooth. They're just doing some things that are just incredible on this album. Very interesting. But I mean, again, we're kind of getting a little bit less adventurous as the album proceeds forward. Don't hate that, just again because it seemed like there was almost too much going on, possibly. So it's kind of nice that we're just kind of getting some relaxed, kind of more mellow, cohesive tunes here. The lyrics on that one were so far from anything intelligible, but again, very nice, just kind of in their overall image. I feel like there's a bit of self-awareness in Lego Napoleon movie written in noble gas-filled glass tubes underlined in sparks, then followed by, I'll admit it's elaborate for a waking thought. This is so just like stream of consciousness in a way. It feels like he's just writing words and then saying the words. Of course, I'm sure there's plenty of meaning you could interpret from this, but again, it's this one's abstract. We'll say that much for sure. I do want to point out, still dragging out a long goodbye, though. That line does seem important to whatever story we might be kind of gathering. Mr. Schwartz, second to last song on here. Liking this, yeah.
Put timing wise, it's probably for the best. Before it gets too cute, Mr. And smudging, dubbing on your dancing shoes. It's like your little dose. The fact, well, guess who I'm pretending to be? Do we win a prize? Good try.
Even with this simple of an instrumental, I like that they're kind of adding some layers as it goes along.
Goddamn thing that you can do about it.
Okay, so honestly, probably gonna end up being, I mean, we haven't heard the last one yet, but that's probably gonna be the least memorable on the album, at least for me personally. I think the minimalism compared to the very not minimalist, we'll just keep it simple here, sound that a lot of the album was taking, that is taken on this song, it's nice. It does sound good. I'm getting some Last Shadow Puppets vibes from it as well. It did remind me quite a bit of the Dream Synopsis, which I love that song, but I do feel like this is a slightly less cohesive, slightly less well thought out than that song. You know, that is easily my favorite song from that band. I know, cliche pick, but you know, this feels like a similar thing, just a bit less ambitious, and that ambition is what was really keeping me intrigued for the majority of this album. Again, very, we'll say, creative. I think creative is a good adjective for the writing. It's certainly the best compliment I feel I could give. You know, it's not a bad song though. Like, even so, I'll put it like this to just put some things in perspective here, because I feel like there's going to be such a crossover audience anyways. The quality of that song that we just listened to was still far better than an album like the last one I just listened to on here, that being the new Muse album. The best songs on it, like, I didn't think were as good as that. You know, anything I feel kind of mediocre on, it's passing that up pretty greatly. And that's just because I've been having such a good time with this album. It just feels almost out of place to have something that I'm not feeling super strongly about. It has been just kind of trailing off into a slightly less ambitious approach for this back half of the album, I want to say. Like, probably big ideas forward. So I'm kind of hoping something a little more crazy happens on Perfect Sense, just because that's where the beginning of this album led us. Very nice.
Richard of York, with the warm-up act. Revelation, say goodnight, that it ain't a race. When my
Alright, so that being the closer to the album, I think was a really good way to send it out. At the very least, sonically speaking, that was incredibly conclusive. It's ending on kind of this, like, warm, bittersweet note. Very pretty, very elegant production and instrumentation across the whole thing. Somewhat relaxed, but still, like, not afraid to take some risks here and there. I thought the writing was pretty on that song. Again, kind of bringing a lot of visuals. I feel like it was bringing a lot of the imagery from earlier on the album. I know there was, like, vacations talked about on the car, like going on trips and whatnot, and I believe we had that line in here about a hotel. Yeah, there's 4-figure sum on a hotel notepad, which seems to be implying, like, the price of this trip that they took. Great closer to the album, first and foremost. I mean, like, I have to put that out there. And just the way that it wrapped it up, I think it was really sweet ending, you know, that I'm glad this ended very conclusively. You know, like, that wrapped itself up as good as any movie would. It just sounds fine. Very nice what they did all the way through. Thoughts on the album as a whole, that was damn incredible. Like, I'm so impressed. I'm blown away by this album. I didn't know what to expect, and I feel like I almost don't know what to expect even having listened to it now. Like, looking backwards, it's almost hard to come up with some thoughts for this just because I feel like I instantly need to just run this back and listen to that again. Lyrically speaking, I'm not necessarily sure at every point what I was supposed to be gathering, as there was so many themes discussed and so many deep-rooted metaphors that were twisting and very convoluted things at times. So many things left open-ended, it seemed, for possibly the listener to just kind of take their own interpretation and leave with it, which there is plenty to be said for. I mean, as far as an argument in its favor. This was very adventurous in its sound as well, which matches the lyrics. It goes right alongside each other. This is a lot. Like, it's just so much covered here. Again, to kind of compare this back to the Muse album we just did, and I hate to have to keep doing that, but it's just the easiest frame of reference I feel like we can both kind of meet on. I felt like everything on that album, almost, excluding that fucking Halloween song, was so, like, easy to describe that I almost had nothing to say. Everything on this album is so hard to describe that I'm having nothing to say. These are just kind of my first thoughts. I'm not anywhere close to, like, having a good summary, a good rating, anything like that. I don't even know if I'm interested in doing that sort of thing at this point. I don't even feel like I'm here for criticism. I'm here to just show you, like, hey, this is my perception of this album, because I'm frankly blown away by it. So that was The Car in all of its strange, liminal, otherworldly glory. And yeah, I think that was a pretty damn good time. I mean, you've already listened to this album if you're here, more than likely, but if you haven't, go do so. I mean, you just heard some of the clips. It should be enough to convince you, I suppose. It needs time to sit with me, but I loved it, so we'll leave it at that. If you made it this far in the video, you probably enjoyed it, so maybe go ahead and consider hitting that subscribe button so you have more music-related content coming your way. Hit the bell so you know when I upload. If you're feeling extra generous, you can even leave a like. All that would be greatly appreciated. And I know the content has been slow. Next video coming out here is something I've been working on for quite a minute now. I'm trying to find a balance between everything that's going on outside of this channel, which is a lot, unfortunately. But I think we have a designated space to where I'm going to be putting a lot of effort into this very big video that I'm going to be writing and filming and working on for a long time. And I'm going to start moving on to some things that I haven't done on here before. So those of you who have stuck around, I really appreciate all of you, first and foremost. And we're going to be doing some fun things too. So stay tuned for more. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.